Hello guys. So going to start with Cucumber framework, right? And I will talk about each and every component of Selenium Cucumber framework, and also I will talk about what are the dependencies we need to start with whenever we are designing with a Cucumber framework, right? So first I'll go with all theoretical concept, and then we will start with the script design and the framework design, right? So first we need to understand what is Cucumber. Cucumber basically it's a testing approach, right, where we test behavior driven development, right? So when we say behavior driven development, which means whenever we get a requirement from a client, so what we do, we convert the requirement into a simple English text using gherkin language. Okay, so gherkin is the language which is supported by Cucumber framework, and when we convert the requirement into a working language, uh, we can execute the requirement which is given by the client. Because when we write the requirement to a working language, basically we write as a feature file, and the feature file we can execute, and it will act like a Java class. So Cucumber tool is based on the behavior driven development framework that act as a bridge between the following people. So when you talk about the Cucumber, this is three important parameters we need to understand. This will act as a bridge, which means it will communicate between software engineer and business analyst. So the business analyst is the one who will gather the requirement from the client. It will communicate between the manual tester and automations tester, and it will also connect between manual tester and developers. Cucumber also benefits the client to understand the application code, as it is uses a working language which is nothing but a plain English text, right? So anyone in the organizations can understand the behavior of the software if you write your requirement into a working language. uh, and the syntax of gherkin language is in simple text which is readable and understandable. So this is the brief about Cucumber, right? Now we will try to understand some more concepts of Cucumber framework. So Cucumber is a software tool used by the computer programmers for testing other software. It runs automated acceptance test written in the behavior driven development style. So basically, this Cucumber framework will run the automated acceptance test. See, when we say acceptance test, which means the requirement which was given by the client, now we run the same requirement and we will publish the report to them saying that the product which has been designed, it is based on the acceptance criteria, right? So central to the Cucumber BDT approach is its plain language parser called gherkin. So basically we use gherkin language to write the behavior driven development test. It allows expected software behaviors to be specified in the logical language that customer can understand. So when we convert the requirement into a test a script by using working language which customer can easily understand. As such, Cucumber allows the execution of feature documentations written in the business facing text, right? Because Cucumber will allow us to execute the document which is written in the business facing text. Cucumber was originally written in Ruby programming language, right? So earlier it only designed for the Ruby and was originally used exclusively for Ruby testing. Okay, earlier the Cucumber was not supporting the Java, but with the time it also started supporting Java and so many other language, right? Cucumber now supports a variety of different programming language through various implementations, including Java. For example, Cook for PHP, okay, Cook for Lua are the software bridges that enable testing of PHP and Lua project respectively. Other implementations may simply leverage the working parser while implementing the rest of the testing framework in the target language, right? So for other, let's say for the Java, it uses the working language which will parse your feature file and it will run your test. Now, what does mean by gherkin language? So basically, gherkin is the language that Cucumber uses to define the test cases, right? So basically, it's a language. We will understand more about the gherkin in my next slide. Here, we need to understand it's basically a language where we can define our test case, right? It is designed to be a non-technical and human readable. See here, when we write a test in the working language, we don't use any language. We don't use Java, we don't use C sharp, we don't use Ruby, Python, Perl, right? We just write a plain simple text as collectively describes use cases relating to a software system. The purpose behind working syntax is to promote behavior driven development practices across an entire development team. So when you say behavior driven development, right, which means you are going to design your test based on the behavior of the applications, right, including business analysts and managers, so everybody can understand easily. It seeks to enforce form an ambiguous requirement starting in the initial phase of requirement defined by a business management and another stage of development life cycle. So basically, this will actually emphasize you. This Gherkin language basically will emphasize you and basically it will ask you to stick with your requirement. Okay, when you are designing a test script, when you design the test script, basically you convert your business requirement into a working language. So this working language is basically forcing you to stick with the requirement, right? So that there will not be any change in the development of the software, because your test script will be as per the requirement. In addition to providing a script for automated testing, working natural language syntax is designed to provide simple documentations of the code under test. Gherkin currently supports keyword in the dozens of language. You have dozens of, you have different language, and every language will have their own Gherkin syntax. All Gherkin syntax file have dot feature file extension. This is very important. When we write a Gherkin language, we need to follow dot feature file extension. Feature, scenario, and steps. This is the three important points of your feature file. So whenever you design a feature file, the feature file is nothing but it's your requirement, and which we write which we write by following the working syntax. So when we design any feature file, it has mainly three components: features, scenario, and steps. Cucumber tests are divided into individual features. These features are subdivided into scenarios, which is a sequence of steps. So the scenario is nothing but sequences of steps. So now we will try to understand what does mean by features. A feature is a use case that describes a specific functions of the software being tested. Okay, so the feature is the use case that describes a specific functions of software being tested. Like what functionality of the applications you are going to test. Let's say when I say login, I am going to test whether I am able to enter the username, whether I am able to enter a password, and whether I am able to click on into a sign in button. So this is the feature I am going to test. So there are three parts passed into a feature parts into the feature keyword, okay, the feature name on the same line as a keyword, and an optional descriptions of the following lines, right? So when we talk about the feature definitions, the example of feature definitions, let's say you have a feature file. So the feature says that withdraw money from ATM. This is the feature, okay, withdraw money from ATM, right? Now this is the descriptions about your feature. A user with an account at the bank would like to withdraw money from an ATM. Provides he has a provided, right? This is the conditions. Provided he has a valid account and debit or credit card, he should be allowed to make the transactions. The ATM will tend to requested amount of money. Okay. Return his card and subtract amount of withdrawal from the user account. So this is, it's like this you can say it as a the the requirement about your features. Like, so the feature is withdraw money from the ATM. This is, you are trying to write some brief descriptions about your feature. Now scenario 1, preconditions, right? So how do we write a feature file? It will be a scenario 1, like what scenario you are going to test. Then given means what is the preconditions, when, like what are the actions you are going to perform, and then what result will come, right? This is the preconditions, this is the actions you are going to perform, and this is the result. I mean, that's what I'm talking about, just the brief about the feature file, like how it will look like. When we start with the actual implementations, we'll understand better, but here this we need to understand from the interview point of view. Now scenario 2 again, what is the preconditions, what is the actions, and what is the result. Now we will understand about the scenarios. Okay, each scenario is a made of collection of scenarios. So each feature basically is made of collection of scenarios. A single scenario is a flow of event through the feature being described and maps 1:1. Okay, with an executable test cases for a system. Keeping with the example of ATM withdrawal feature, let's say when you are designing the script for the ATM withdrawal feature, a scenario might describe how a user requests money and what happens to the account, right? So when you withdraw, uh, you need to know what happens when you do a withdrawal and what happens to your account. Now this is the scenario 1. Eric wants to withdraw money from his bank account at an ATM. This is the scenario. So what should be the conditions? Eric has a valid credit or debit card. This is given. This is like prerequisite. He has one valid credit or debit card and his account balance is 100. Right? He should be a credit card and he need to have the account balance, right? When he insert his card, okay, and withdraw $40, when he withdraws, then the ATM should return $40, right? And his account balance is $55. So that's how we write a scenario. This is one simple scenario you can correlate, right? This is about the ATM. When you what you do is go for the ATM. You need to have the card, you need to have the balance. When you insert the card, you withdraw, ATM return, and then amount will get deducted. So that's how we design the scenario. And this syntax, this we call it as a gherkin syntax. These are all gherkin syntax. When, then, right? In some cases, one might want to test multiple scenarios at once to perform equivalence partitioning or boundary value analysis. This is the manual testing concepts. Okay, you need to understand. So a scenario outline provides a technique to specify multiple example to test against a template scenario by using placeholder. For example, let's say you have a requirement where you need to test your test script with the multiple set of data, right? So how do you do that in case of Cucumber framework? In case of Cucumber, you can write scenario outline. A user withdraw money from an ATM, right? Now this is generic scenario. Here I'm not writing any person name. Here what we need to do that is we have to withdraw the money uh, as a user. So it can have multiple users. Every user will have their own balance, one debit card, one credit card, right? Now you write given angle bracket name. This name will act as a data table. Okay, so this name will get mapped here, right? The original balance will get mapped here, the withdrawal amount will get mapped here, and withdrawal amount this withdrawal amount, and then new balance will get added here, right? So this is the, it has alignment issue, you just try to understand. So given name, the first name Eric has a valid credit card and debit card, and the account balance is, the original balance is 100. When he insert the card and withdrawal amount 45, the ATM should return withdrawal amount 45, and their account balance should be a new balance which is 55. Now when you run this test, you know what will happen in case of Cucumber framework? This will run 3 times based on the data you have here, right? So whenever you have a requirement where you need to run your test for multiple set of data, you need to go with the syntax called scenario outline. Okay, and then you write the your customer requirement, and you write a table like this, which I will show you when I'll start with the scripting, so that your test will run 3 times based on the number of data. Your first row here is nothing but the column what you have. Okay, the column what you have. Now at runtime, the scenario is run against each row in a table. Column values are substituted for each of the name placeholder in scenario. So whatever placeholder you are seeing that, right, the value will get added here, right. Now what does mean by steps? So the steps is, the scenario is defined by the sequence of steps during outlining the preconditions and the flow of event that will take place, right. So basically the steps is nothing but uh, like any scenario. When we write any big scenario, we have a steps, right. So let's say if you look at this, a user withdraw money from the ATM, we call this as a steps actually, no matter it is the preconditions and actions and then result, right. Now you can correlate here what I spoke. You have scenario, preconditions, actions and result. That's what I'm talking about. This is the preconditions, this is the actions, and this is the result. Now if you go here and you can see that this is the preconditions, these two is preconditions, this is the actions, right, and this is the result. Last two line is the result, this two is the action, and the first two is the prerequisite. Now the steps is nothing but sequence of steps. So if you look at the first word of steps is a keyword, typically one of the given, when and then. So generally either we write given, when and then. So given, we need to understand now when we write a given, whenever we write a cucumber feature file, we follow this given, when and then. So given describes the preconditions and initial state before the start of the test, allow you for any pre-test setup that might occur. So any preconditions when you want to write in your test scenario, you can use the syntax given. Okay, you can use the syntax. This is mainly for preconditions. So let's say I want to buy a product, okay, online. So there could be lot of preconditions. One is given, I need to have the account to the site. Given, I have the money, right? Or given, I have a let's say coupon card for that application. So all prerequisite you can write in the given. When describe actions taken by the user during a test, like what actions you are doing that, right. So let's say when I'm planning to buy a book from Amazon, my action is when I log into when I log into applications, okay, and I click on a book, right, and I click on the book. So this is my action, right. then then what happens is, then a book will get delivered to me. So when I clicked on the book, and when so the conditions will be like this. When first you write given, so given is better login things, you write it here. Given I am on Amazon homepage, this is the prerequisite, okay. When I click on book link and I select one book, right, and I add to basket and I enter payment details, right, and I click on buy now, assume that, then book will be delivered to me, right, and I will receive one email, I will receive one purchase email from Amazon. So you can understand now, right. This is the actions. When is the actions? Then is describe the outcome result from the actions taken in the when clause. Like when we do something, what is the outcome? The outcome is described by that then, and is for and you can write for the sequence formations, and then what is the outcome finally, right. Occasionally the combinations of given, when, then uses other keyword to define the conjunctions. You can see it here. What we use, we use these three, given, when, then, we can combine with and, logical and, but logically the same as and, but used in the negative form. So either you can use and or but, two things you can use. So this given when then you can combine with the and but to define the logical combinations. Now look at here scenario. A user attempts to withdraw more money than they have in their account. This is your scenario. Okay, so John has a valid credit card and debit card and he has a balance of $20. This is your preconditions. When he insert his card and withdraw $40, right, then ATM display an error and return his card, but his balance remains $20 because transaction was not successful. So here, but his balance remains $20. So here you can write the but. Okay, here you should go for the but and return his card, right, but his balance remains $20. So that's how you can use for, actually when you write here and also, that is also it's not like your script will be wrong, but you go for but in this case, right. So it's like you're getting that negative kind of sense, like your balance is not getting decreased. So you have done something, you have done a transactions, but your balance is not decreased. Why? Because your amount was more. So here you go for but. In this kind of scenario you can go for but. Now hooks is very important. We need to understand the cucumber hooks is very important. Hooks are cucumber a way of allowing for setup to be performed prior to the test being run and tear down to be run afterward. So basically the hooks, it's like you are going to run the test in your framework, but before running the test you want to do some setup, you want to do some initializations that you can achieve through the hooks. Okay, it's like similar to JUnit method before and after, right? Conventionally they are placed under support and are applied globally. So the best part with this, before after, when you write these hooks in the test script, or in the framework, it is the global. It will be applicable for all your feature files which you have in your project. Now these are the hooks. Before runs before a scenario, after runs after a scenario, around assumes control and run around the scenario. So these three hooks we will understand. Additional hooks includes before a step, after configurations, right, and configurations. So these are the, before every steps if you want to do something, or after every steps you want to do something, like you want to capture the screenshot, or you want to do some any kind of other prerequisite which you have, you can go for these hooks. Okay, now feature of BDD. What are the features of behavior driven development? So shifting from thinking in test to thinking in behavior, this is the BDD concepts. Like don't think from the test perspective, think from the behavior perspective. What is the behavior of the applications? Think from that perspective. Collaborations between business stakeholders, business analyst, QA team and developers. This will collaborate between the stakeholder, the client, the BA, who BA is the one who collects the requirement from the clients, the QA team, testing team and the development team. Basically everybody will be connected, right? Then then ubiquitous language, it is easy to describe. Okay, what does mean by that? It means it's a common language, it will not change, it's always fixed. So it is very easy to, it's a universal language. Okay, this gherkin basically it uses this BDD, we use gherkin language which is universal, driven by business value. Okay, this is not driven by what you think, this is driven by what is the behavior of the application, what is the business value of the application, like what business. So let's say when I say uh, I want to buy a book, again the same example, the conditions is I need to be on the home page and I click on the book link, right? then book will get added to the add to basket. Okay, so this is mainly of what is the business value of your applications. Okay, extends test driven development TDD by utilizing natural language that non-technical stakeholder can understand, right? BDD framework such as Cucumber or JBehave are an enablers acting a bridge between the business and technical language. So this BDD framework basically, it will work as a bridge between your business and technical language, because when you write a BDD, which I have shown you, the feature file, your client will see the feature file, but the behind the scene, we have to write the code. For every line of your feature file, there need to be a code, the Selenium code in your framework. Then only file will get executed. But that client is not bothered, because client will just see your feature file. Example of Cucumber or BDD test. The main feature of Cucumber is to focus on acceptance testing. It made it easy for anyone in the team to read and write the test. Okay, anyone can read and write. With this feature, it brings business users into a test process, helping team to explore and understand the requirement. This is the main example of BDD test. Look at here the example. Okay, here I have given some brief introductions again, right? So what is the BDD? Basically, it makes your life very easy. You can anyone can write the test and read the test, including your manager, right? So that anyone can understand. Even your client can write the test script. Okay, and he can write a feature file, and you can convert the feature file into a Selenium language. So look at this example feature. Sign up. Okay, sign up should be quick and friendly. This is the requirement scenario. Successful sign up scenario. What is the scenario? When new users should get a confirmations email and be greeted personally by the site once signed in. This is your assume that this is your scenario. Okay, this is your scenario, the brief introduction about the scenario. Given I have chosen to sign up. Okay, when I sign up with valid details, then I should receive a confirmations email and I should see a personalized greeting message. This is your one scenario for the sign up. The feature is sign up itself. The second scenario, duplicate email, where someone tries to create an account for an email address that already exists. Okay, how do you write for this? Given I have chosen to sign up, when I enter an email address that has already registered, then I should be told that email is already registered and I should be offered the option to recover my password. Try to understand. If you understand this, you can write any scenario. So please try to understand. Okay. Try to imagine like how you should write a feature file. See, writing a feature file is a technique. First, you need to understand how you should write your requirement. Then only you can write a feature file. Right? You can see that here. When I enter email address that has already registered, then I should be told that email is already registered and I should be offered an option to recover my password. Okay, this happens, right? When we do in the online things, this happens. That's how we should write a feature file. Now, the last point, TDD. Sometimes people will ask you, though we don't do TDD testing, this is mainly for unit testing done by the development team. But people will ask you, we usually do BDD, behavior driven testing. So in TDD, the software development process that relies on the repetitive of a very short development cycle. Let's say your development cycle is very small, the requirement is very small, project is very small, you can go for TDD. Here, first developer writes an test that defines the desired improvement of the new functions, then produces a minimum amount of code to pass the test. First what that guy will do, he will write a dummy unit test. No data with the test. He will just design some dummy method. There will not be any steps to the method. Then what he will do, finally he will add some code, right? Then produces minimum amount of code to pass the test. Then he will add some code so that when he will run the test against the application, it should pass. And finally refactors the new code to acceptable standards. And finally, what it will do, once the product is designed, he will write all the code so that the code will run against the designed applications. Kent Beck, who is the credited with having developed or rediscovered the technique, stated in 2003 that TDD encourages a simple design and inspires confidence. So this is mainly for developers for writing unit test. We should not go more into the details. If somebody will ask you, just talk about the BDD. And with this, I have given all the required concepts of the BDD framework so that you can easily explain to the interviewers. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching this.